Joining us now for more on this is Duane Bratt, political science professor at Mount Royal University. Duane, good to see you.
Okay, you as well.
So what did you take away from what Minister Freeland was saying about Alberta's proposal?
That's all consistent with what Chrystia Freeland has been talking about since the idea was floated by the Alberta government. What is new about today, I think, are a couple things. One is the agreement that Freeland has to commission a federal study on what Alberta's share of the CPP would be. After all, Alberta believes it's entitled to 53%. The federal government has disputed that number and is now going to commission a number. Both Premier Smith and Alberta Finance Minister Nate Horner have demanded that Ottawa show up with a number, but it took multiple years for Alberta to commission this study. I think we need time for the feds to do likewise. The other important aspect of this was that it included all of the other provincial ministers. Premier Smith wants to frame this Alberta versus Ottawa, but it's actually Alberta versus the rest of the country. And in fact, every single province is opposed to Alberta pulling out of the CPP and believing it's risky and damaging to the country as a whole. And they also dispute the 53% now.
And Duane, this is your home province that we're talking about. You're in Alberta. How do people feel about this plan where you are?
There is not. Those that support it have always supported. This idea has floated around conservative intellectual circles for over 20 years. And it remains very popular amongst the hardcore. But we have decades of polling on this, and not once has it achieved more than 50% amongst the population. So many of the people who voted for the UCP in the last election in May are the ones opposed to pulling out of the CPP. And that is why Premier Smith did not campaign on this idea several months ago, and in fact, put the idea on the shelf and said, nobody is touching your pensions, and then violated that months later. So she is now facing not just outrage by the federal government, which I think she wanted, but also from every other province, including some of her closest allies like Ontario and Saskatchewan. And she is facing backlash within her own province. So we'll have to see if she continues to plow through this or whether the whole point is to create this massive fight.
Meantime, another issue that is the federal government is facing is increasing pressure to do more on the carbon tax pauses. So there was that pause, the 3-year pause on home heating oil, which really is something that benefits a lot of people in the East Coast. But when it comes to where you are and the rest of Canada, there are calls for the federal government to expand that. And we saw a conservative motion that the NDP say they're going to back. And I think a lot of people are saying, wow, how many times do you see that happen? Do you think this is going to become a ballot box issue?
We'll have to see. I mean, 2 years is a long time from a federal election, but it has greatly exacerbated regional tensions out here. The idea that you're making a carve out for home heating oil, which is predominantly used in Atlantic Canada, and you're ignoring natural gas, which exists on the most of the country, and particularly the prairies, but also Ontario, looks very unfair. It looks like the federal government is picking winners and losers. And so this has caused a lot of consternation out here. And I would add that in the finance minister meeting today, the Saskatchewan minister wanted to raise the issue of carbon taxes. She quickly pivoted from talking about pensions to blasting the feds over carbon taxes. So you can understand the hostility out here to the basically a regional carve-out for Liberal voters in Atlantic Canada.
Okay, Duane, we got to leave it there. Duane Bratt, political science professor at Mount Royal University. As always, such a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Chat later.